BBC Breakfast. Now we go into this very important conversation. Now, Niger Delta has positioned itself as a major driver of Nigeria's blue economy, with stakeholders focusing on harnessing the region's vast coastal and marine resources to boost job investment and sustainable development. Now, states in the region are already making moves to attract investments through projects like the Ibom Deep Seaport in Akwa Ibom, which is projected to enhance trade and economic activities. According to experts, developing blue economy sectors such as maritime trade, fishery, coastal tourism, and port infrastructure can unlock a long-term economic growth for the oil-rich region. To achieve this, policymakers and development actors need to work towards a coordinated framework that will align government institutions, regional bodies, and private sectors in mobilizing, financing, and expertise. Joining us by Zoom from Port Harcourt is co-convener Niger Delta Blue Economy Investment Summit, Dr. Uche Igwe. Good morning, Dr. Uche. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning on this very, I'll say, very positive topic. You know, now we know that the Niger Delta's economy is not just on land, it's also on water again, which is a good one. You know, when we talk about maritime, oftentimes we put our attention on oil, tourism, and all of that, but we also know that there's a great amount of money that can be gotten from maritime. But I want to speak in terms of job creations and also investment. You know, what are some of the things that are being put in place to make sure that this sector gets a lot of investment? And if this is able to stand still and work properly, you know, what's it going to do in terms of job opportunities? We also talk about fishery as well. So I'm just throwing this, question to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You are correct. A new chapter of the Niger Delta is being written. It is actually an old chapter because the blue economy resources and potentials have existed even before the discovery of oil. And what is happening now is that there is a renewed push for a coordinated framework to make sure that states are taking advantage of the new national marine and blue economy policy and making sure that they bring in investments. As you alluded earlier, there's already an effort to do a deep sea port in Akwa Ibom State, where incidentally, we're hosting the first Niger Delta Blue Economy Investment Summit because of a lot of potentials in Akwa Ibom State, and also because of the courageous actions of the governor that he has taken towards ensuring that the infrastructure is in place and, of course, putting together the Ibom Deep Seaport in Ibaka. Other states' government also are keying in. Bayelsa State, for instance, has already established the Blue Economy Ministry, and they're going in that direction. Again, they're developing a seaport. Beyond the development of seaports, there are a lot of other activities that we want to use this summit to bring stakeholders together, to be on the same page and to organize ourselves. Of course, the shortages in fishing through fish importation in Nigeria that has cost the nation billions of naira. In fact, numbers say sometimes it's up to more than $1 billion annually. That will soon be a story of the past because there is an effort to coordinate and regulate fishing in a manner that in the Niger Delta can supply Nigeria some of the gaps that's usually experienced annually in fishing. So there are a lot of other efforts in maritime security, for instance. There is an effort to coordinate maritime security. Security companies, Target One, Tantita, and others who have been working to curb oil theft and maintain maritime security. We want them to begin to talk more to each other and with government and with stakeholders so that we can harness opportunities for improvement. Also, we are going to be talking about issues focusing on safety of marine transportation. As you know, many people annually lose their lives as a result of equipment failure, traveling across our territorial waters. We're also working with private sector companies like Cavatin Marine to bring in the technology of building environmental friendly and very strong boats, passenger boats. Already those boats are already been deployed in Lagos, and we're thinking that the Niger Delta, with our vast territorial waters and with a whole lot of people traveling through some of these water bodies would have the right equipment so that these accidents that happen from time to time as a result of equipment failure will reduce. So there are so many other things we're going to do, and that's why we're coming together to do this, and we're going to be doing this annually so that we can take stock of where things are and then begin to chart a way forward.
All right, Mr. Pedro.
Yeah, I'm pleased to actually, Dr. Igwe.
Dr. Igwe, can you hear us?
Can you hear, Dr. Igwe? Yeah, I'm pleased to actually mention the issue of fishing. There's no doubt Niger Delta is well endowed when it comes to the marine sector. If you look at the practice currently where fish like barracuda, prawns and all that are moved to rickety boats, you know, from the Niger Delta creeks down to Ijora in Lagos before they are stored or they are disposed, you know, to buyers. I'm sure you'll be looking at resources. How do we ensure that the private sector will pump in resources into this sector with a view to exploit those huge resources currently being exploited by some foreign vessels within the Niger Delta, you know, to harness it for marine development in order to ensure sustainable use of those resources within the Niger Delta. I'm referring to the fishing sector and investment in the mode of transportation and storage.
Yes, you are very correct. There's a whole lot of efforts that are being put in place to do first regulation. What you are talking about, that the Niger Delta and indeed most of our territorial waters are now places where foreigners invade and do all forms of unregulated fishing, is something that will be on the table at the Niger Delta Blue Economic Investment Summit. We want regulation. Regulatory authorities must ensure that the kind of fishing that's happening in our territorial waters is regulated fishing. Again, as you have said, there are a lot of investors who, even indigenous investors, I've mentioned two of them already, who are ready to give out the right equipment for some of these activities. Again, there are cold stores that are going to be established so that there will be a chain multiplier effect of employment, as someone alluded to earlier, through the fishing sector, so that at the end of the day, some will be fishing, some will be distributing, others will work in cold rooms, and the kind of job that the Tinubu administration is trying to focus on, we will put them in practice in the Niger Delta through the summit and through a coordinated approach, not only to fishing, also to other sectors, maritime security, aquaculture, tourism. There is a huge opportunity for investment in tourism in the Niger Delta. Have you ever been to Ibuno in Akwa Ibom State? Take a trip to Andoni in Rivers State, and you will see the vast investment opportunities that exist in the Niger Delta that are currently untapped. Through our investment summit, we put all those opportunities on the table and invite local and international investors to come and key in, understanding that we need to make sure that security issues are nipped in the bud and security agencies come around the table to ensure that there is coordinated security. As you know, no one is ready, whether local or international, to invest in a region where there is insecurity. And, you know, gratefully, what we used to know about Niger Delta in terms of insecurity is reducing. And this will continue to be consistent through the efforts of the Niger Delta Blue Economic Investment Summit, and of course, working with private sector and security agencies.
Now, Dr. Igwe, this is a very welcome development, but I want to really hone in on the Niger Delta communities that stand to benefit, you know, from this blue economy investments. Now, unfortunately, there's been decades of community mistrust that has been built within Niger Delta communities due to the amount of oil that was extracted, both legally and erroneously from the communities. How do you plan to convince these Niger Delta host communities that in the blue economy economy investments will be different. On the other hand, we also know that there are many illegal and informal economies that the youth in Niger Delta have come to depend on. When we look at illegal oil bunkering and local refining, when we look at unregulated fishing and riverine resource harvesting, they've come to depend on these local economies. Realistically, how do you plan to cooperate and uproot these informal and illegal economies and to replace them with better, blue economy investments like you speak about?
Yes, first of all, I would like to draw your attention to the fate of the Niger Delta communities, especially during flooding. As you know, many of them are washed away annually during flooding, so their livelihoods are distorted and they start rebuilding every year. We are putting them on the table to understand that there are opportunities to prevent these annual flooding episodes. Of course, Lagos, you sit indeed in a place, Eco-Atlantic City, which is a product of creative intervention, converting what used to be the angry bar beach to an opportunity. That's what we want to do with the Niger Delta, and that's what we want to get the coastal communities to understand, because the people indigents of these communities will be the people who will work in these hotels, who will work in these construction sites. So we want to create alternative livelihoods for them that are sustainable. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, of course, some of these informal opportunities that these communities are engaging in is because they don't have options. Through the coordinated approach, we have a master plan that will create about 100,000 jobs annually for these people. Immediately they have options, and if you ask many of them who do some of these, who engage in some of these activities, oil bunkering, whatever you call them, that are informal, is because they do not have options. With the Niger Delta Blue Economy Master Plan that will be launched during the Niger Delta Blue Economy Investment Summit, alternative livelihoods will be built for these communities. Preventive approaches to annual flooding will be discussed and implemented. And in implementing all of those, jobs will be created, and there will be an automatic buy-in by these communities, because we know that it is a nightmare. We know that government spends billions every year trying to relocate some of these communities who are washed away. And I can tell you that the kind of package, the kind of strategy we have in place is something we have gone around the world to learn from other communities, coastal communities, how they have managed themselves, and indeed learn from Lagos, how Lagos has managed to convert Ahmadu Bello Way, what it used to be, to what it is now. So we are open, we're learning, and communities are at the center of what we're doing, and we are certain that they will get a buy-in into what we're doing. That's right. Because it is about them.
Yeah, Dr. Uche, in fact, this is quite a timely conversation. You've made us understand that the blue economy isn't just about the sea, it's about transforming Nigeria's largest coastal region into a sustainable, growth. You mentioned, copying from other, countries and states. So let's dig deep into the global model. For instance, in countries such as Tunisia and Mauritius, structured blue economy frameworks have actually spurred those coastal tourism, renewable energy, and maritime transport sectors, all together. So with this summit bringing in such global experience, how do you see these international case studies translating into real local jobs and investment for Niger Delta communities, especially in sectors like aquaculture, ports, and green maritime logistics?
I'm delighted that you mentioned Tunisia. Indeed, the keynote speaker of at the Niger Delta Blue Economy Investment Summit is the former Prime Minister of Tunisia, His Excellency Mehdi Joma. So he's coming real time to share the experiences of Tunisia and see how we can contextualize these experiences to fit into the realities of the Niger Delta region. So we are learning from Kenya also. We are learning from Seychelles. And there are a lot of experts who are going to come on ground during the summit to understand the contextual contours of the Niger Delta, which could be slightly different, and adapt them to what has worked elsewhere. So we are open, and we are firmly believing that with the buy-in of regional agencies like the Niger Delta Development Commission, the South-South Development Commission, and indeed the exceptional cooperation we have received from the state governments, we are set to write a new chapter in the Niger Delta region, a chapter of sustainability, because blue economy, of course, brings in climate-friendly approaches, a chapter of inclusion because the communities will be at the center of these interventions, and a chapter of prosperity because jobs will be created, and then the local economy will be stimulated. Yeah. If you look at the construction of the deep sea port in Akwa Ibom State, a local economy is already being created. Same with what is going on in Bayelsa. Same with what we are told that will start very soon in Bonny Island. So when all of these constructions are going on, when all of these investments come into the country, locally and internationally, there will be a multiplier effect on our economy. And I think that that is what the president had in mind, that in his wisdom, he created a ministry that is focusing specifically on blue economy. And now we have a national policy. So we're ready to go.
All right, fantastic. You know, it seems like a very, great initiative, very beautiful idea. And, the summit is coming up as well. But I want to speak about the fact that you've spoken so beautifully. You also spoke about tourism, which is something that I think that, will be perfect for, that place. But let's talk about funding, because that is the main reason. That's what's going to hold everything together. For a project like this, are we looking at the PPP? Are we looking at bonds in terms of funding such a project?
Thank you very much. We are looking at a combination. First is that we have an expert on blue financing who is going to talk to us, and we're thinking about specific workshops on blue financing. As you know, funding is at the center of some of these. So there are innovative blue financing mechanisms that have been deployed, and you made a reference to bonds. Yeah. Yes, we are working with Blue Bond Accelerators, an international company based in the UK, who will indeed be coming into the country to work with us to discuss and understand ways to raise money, blue financing, through these blue bonds. So we are also planning to establish the Niger Delta Blue Economy Investments Fund, a specific funds that will be ring-fenced for blue economy friendly and climate friendly projects, where we're going to source money from donors and international partners, so that those who have climate-friendly, blue economic compliant proposals can access funds. So yes, we are thinking about a combination of possibilities, and indeed, PPP, as you said, is at the center. We want government to create the enabling environment for both international and local private sector to key in.
All right, but what date are we looking at this, this summit? What date are we looking at?
The summit we hold is just by the corner. It's going to hold from the 9th to the 11th of February, next week, at Ikotekpene, 4 Ponds by Sheraton Hotel, Ikotekpene. And indeed, the executive governor of Akwa Ibom State, His Excellency Pastor Moeno, has graciously accepted to speak at the summit as an expression of his political will to, open the summit, and all is set for the former Prime Minister of Tunisia to arrive the country as a keynote speaker.
All right,
yeah. I'm interested in two things now. The first one is the legal aspect, which is the maritime law. Are you assured that our maritime law currently covers the level of activities which you have told Nigerians, in the sense that there's the issue of insurance, the safety of people using the sea? The second part of it is arising from your submission just a short while ago. On the issue of funding, what is the role of Niger Delta Development Commission? Because I noticed you did mention that, and the South-South Commission in terms of providing funds to adequately fund those initiatives.
Okay, our existing maritime laws are far from perfect. But like I said, we have the National Marine and Blue Economy Policy. So between the policy and the law, we can have a leeway to begin. Now, because the blue economy is the buzz all over the world, we are also willing to work with stakeholders to adapt our laws to international standards, understanding the broader scope of blue economy and using the law as a framework for a coordinated approach. I can assure you that both the Niger Delta Development Commission and the South-South Development Commission and all the states are on board in this initiative. They are willing to provide resources. Indeed, that is what they are established to do. So the Niger Delta Development Commission, for instance, have been doing very successful PPPs, many of them in blue economy areas. And like I said, many state governments, Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, have all been involved, and among others, have all been involved in PPPs. And I told you something about Calverton Marine. It's a company based in Lagos that is working with Lagos state government. They are open to come to the Niger Delta to establish PPPs. In fact, we have started discussing a possibility of establishing a boat fabrication yard for passenger boats, world-class, climate-friendly passenger boats, to be fabricated right here in the region that can fit into our context and that can also create jobs for the young people. So yes, both the private sector and government agencies are willing, and we believe that through the summit, they talk to each other, not talk at each other, and we can make sure that we minimize duplication and make sure that everyone is on the same page.
Now, Dr. Igwe, I'm reading here, and unfortunately, I want to stay on funding, but we do know that host communities oftentimes have been they've been collateral for big projects like this. Some environmental activists might argue that oil companies, staying on funding, should actually be the ones to fund these environmental transition projects as a form of environmental justice. On the other hand, who really controls the assets in the Niger Delta on scales like this? Is it the federal government? Is it the host communities? Or is it coastal states? Who should control the assets?
Well, I think that we are open. The kind of framework we want to adapt is not to say, oh, yeah, we don't want to live in the past to say all the problems will be solved by oil companies. Yes, they participated in creating some of the problems. Yes, it is justifiable that in a world of energy transition, they should also support communities, support places where they have license to operate, to transit by creating alternative livelihoods. We are in conversation with many of them, and we believe that they will come on board as part of their host community responsibilities, as part of their social responsibilities, to find out what they can do that is compliant with blue economy. Who controls the resources, or who controls the assets? I think that both federal and state government, all the while they've had ways of, the state government is the territory. But again, the laws are there as to who controls all of these assets.
That's right.
However, because the communities are the center of what we do, they will be on the table at the summit, and we must ensure that whether the state or the federal government, communities who are the ultimate beneficiaries are on the table to make sure their interests are integrated. And that is the only way to make sure that the prosperity that we're thinking about, the reduction of poverty that we all want to happen in a lifetime, happens in the Niger Delta region.
Yeah. I think you've actually essentially addressed the next question I would have asked you concerning the host communities, because it's so that it doesn't amount to shaving their heads behind their back. But one thing is, experts at the summit should also be expected to talk about economic synergies with technologies like AI and climate-friendly transport. So I'm wondering, what kind of innovation, digital tools, and clean tech that will also be discussed, highlighted at the summit, the strategic outcomes, so that it benefits not just the players, but also the smallholder fishers, youths, and the coastal entrepreneurs?
Yes, many of them will be there at the summit. And like I told you, Calverton Marine, they have recently started producing electric boats that are climate friendly. And many of the people who work to produce these boats are young people, are young Nigerians, many of them from the Niger Delta, and are thinking about establishing a fabrication yard is also to make sure that the entities involved find ways of building capacity of the young people so that they can participate. We don't want the young people to be bystanders anymore. These climate-friendly technologies are going to be taught, to young people. And thankfully, Calverton has agreed to be on ground to demonstrate some of these technologies, and they are already available to be talking with agencies like the Local Content Development, Nigerian Content Development Authority, and any other interested partners in the region to make sure that we can find ways of scaling this up. We have young people in mind. We believe that the participation of young people, be it on AI, be it on climate-friendly technologies, will be at the center of all our efforts to make sure that there's prosperity and poverty is reduced.
Exactly, a very fine place to leave the conversation. We must thank you so much, Dr. Igwe. Thank you for joining us today on the conversation. A lot has been learned. I wish you all the best with the summit. Probably, maybe we will come to support you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. I will wait and receive all of you, and this partnership will continue, I assure you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, still to come on TVC Breakfast, United States sends trip to Nigeria following the recent security cooperation between both countries. Is this strategic or a partnership or security risks? Join us after the break.